Hello, podcast listeners. We know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station. But you know, KSJE is now listener-supported, and so while you enjoy this podcast, we hope that you'll also take some time to join KSJE. Become a member today. It's quite easy to do. Just go to our website at ksje.com/support and pick the level of support that best matches your budget. Thanks again for listening. Here's your podcast. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center. The caregivers of San Juan Regional Medical Center are committed to bettering the quality of life, health, and care of individuals, families, and our communities. Life is their sacred trust. Better is their mission. Here is their home. San Juan Regional Medical Center, improving the health of the Four Corners since 1910. And back in Studio A this morning with my guest, as I mentioned, from Farmington Schools. Welcome back to Studio A in the new year, Superintendent Cody Diehl from Farmington Schools. Mr. Diehl, good morning, and as I said, welcome back.
Good morning, Scott. Thanks for having us. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
I was a little bummed in your weather report this morning.
Were you?
Well, I mean, we were hoping for some snow. We need moisture,
right? We do.
I do see we have some good bicycle weather next week, though. What, mid-60s?
Getting there. Mid-50s at least, maybe, right? But
did I see like 64 next week?
I think you might have, yeah.
Hello.
So we'll see.
I'll take some of that, but we do need some moisture, right?
We may still get some today, so we'll see. But so far, just kind of light sprinkles, if anything, out there, I think, for this morning. But it could be different elsewhere. You never know, right?
I know I received many wishes for a snow day.
I bet
today.
you did.
I'm so sorry.
Right. But that's all right. But the new year off to a good start for you, your students, and your staff?
Yeah, we've had a good back to school start, second semester. We've had some pipe freezing issues.
Oops.
And
okay. Well, it was very cold, yeah.
It definitely. We've had a few issues like that, but for the most part, good start.
Okay, very, very good. Well, lots to discuss and talk about today as we get back into the swing of things with the new year. And so a couple of things that we want to mention, your petroleum engineering mentorship class.
Yeah, geez, so George Sharp, you see pictured there, and we want to thank Marion Oil and George Sharp for just taking on this free of charge, giving back to our community and getting students interested in petroleum engineering or any type of engineering for that matter. I think he presented at our school board meeting in January, and that picture there you see at some of the students who get up on their own time and before school, I think one day a week, go in, and it's a really cool program. And it's been happening for a long time. I think Mr. Sharp said since 1994, and almost 500 students have gone through his mentorship class. So
how about that?
Thank you to Marion Oil and George Sharp. Wonderful opportunity for those students.
Congratulations. And of course, these are all students that have an interest then in engineering, I guess, right? And learning more a little bit about it. And of course, it's such an important part of the oil and gas industry here as well. Yeah,
for sure. And these partnerships, they continue to grow in our county and in our city. And I want to thank Milo McMinn and Liz Galvan for this has been going on forever, but they've extended this into other pathways for our students. So I'm very excited, and we can't thank these partnerships enough for allowing our students to get exposed to whatever it is that they're interested in, and sometimes they latch on and run with it, and sometimes they say, well, maybe that's not for me.
Right.
So it's a good opportunity.
But now's the time to figure that out.
Now's the time to figure it out.
They can do that with these companies and these partnerships, that's for sure. So congratulations. Your Science Olympiad regional competition?
Yeah. So we had a lot of schools from around the region that competed in 23 events, and we hosted the Northwest New Mexico Science Olympiad. And we always love it when one of our schools places or wins, and so we did a good job at the middle school level. Mesa View Middle School, first place, second place, Hermosa. So Farmington Schools swept in the middle school, and then the overall team results in the high school division, first place Farmington High, and then second place right here, San Juan College High School.
How about that?
looking forward to the state competition and in Socorro.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's coming up.
Coming up in about a month.
Yeah, that's true. February 22nd, it says. So congratulations to all those students. And again, there's a lot of really interesting things presented at these Olympiads, a lot of interesting thinking, I think, outside the box from some of these students and their displays.
Yeah, and you know, the time that the students put in and experimenting and testing and just being research based and it's good stuff. And I can't thank all of our sponsors for the extra time that they put in and the commitment that they make to our students and these teams. So we thank them as well.
Yeah, very, very true. And the judges too, I think, have the biggest job, don't they?
Well, and it's
figure this out.
Yeah, whether it's the Science Olympiad or the Science Fair,
right.
I feel like I see an email come across my desk almost weekly about judging. Or being in a school to whether it's science or reading or spelling bees.
Right.
Yep.
All
it's
those
good
things.
stuff.
Very important for sure. Very true. Visual performing media arts classes. Talk to me a little bit about what we're seeing here.
Well, I think the message here is and we've said it many a times about our community and how we the visual performing arts. I think the number that keeps impressing me, or that I want to press upon everybody, is the amount of students that participate in our media or performing arts, whether it be visual, media arts, performing arts, and best community for music education 8 years in a row. So, and here's why. Had the opportunity to go see Piedra Vista's one-act state championship one-act play this past weekend, the Yellow Boat. So they did a great job. It's just come out and see us when you see it come across your feed and come out and enjoy. Very talented students.
Congratulations. And we were excited to have some of the cast and crew from that performance on the show back when it first was performed at school, then it went on to win in statewide competition, and they brought it back for what kind of a grant and command performance, I guess maybe you'd call it, right?
They're trying to raise a little money to take it to the national competition this summer. So come out and support. I know that they're, and I wish I knew. It's on the tip of my tongue. The next production, it's going to be a musical, and Mr. Gleason announced at the Yellow Boat the other day that it's the first musical at Piedra Vista in quite some time. So looking forward to it.
Very, very good. Well, congratulations again.
He does a good job.
Mr. Gleason's already booked some spots on this program for that performance, so that's why I'm looking for it right now. Hadestown.
Yes, that's
Isn't that it? There
Way to
you
go.
Okay, see,
All right,
I knew
thank
I
you.
had it. You bet. And just kudos to the school and the school board for the support of the performing arts and things like that, because not every school district, I think, has the offerings that Farmington does for students who are interested in media arts or visual or performing arts or things like that. So kudos, I think, go out to the board for their support and your teachers and principals for their support too.
Yeah, the school board does a great job of supporting all of our programs. They really do. Whether it be approving trips that they take, but also, we've had Mr. Fear in here before, our finance coordinator for the district, and he continues to push us and challenge us to keep growing. And so that department, along with our curriculum team, they do a really good job. Yeah,
well, congratulations once again, and congrats for the students who are in these programs and excelling, obviously, and getting noticed elsewhere in the state for sure. Your new preschool is getting funded, and that's exciting. And that's been a project, I think, that's been on the table for a while now, right?
Yeah,
to try to have a building for this, another dedicated building.
I feel like I think it was even before my official contract started as the superintendent back in the summer of 22, where I went down to Santa Fe and we pitched this for the very first time. And so we're knocking on 3 years that we've been planning this, but want to thank the Public School Capital Outlay Council and of course the PSFA for supporting us. So all preschools, there was a capital outlay push for preschools to apply regardless of their ranking. So so schools are ranked in order of need to be replaced, and preschools were given the opportunity to apply. And so we actually applied for a waiver for full funding. So we want to thank the Capital Outlay Council and for granting us the full funding. So we are very we contributed to the design phase, a year and a half, 2 years ago, back when we started this. We contributed dollars to that, but beyond that, maybe with the exception of a few above adequacy items, the state is fully funding this project. So
Nice.
we're very thankful. Thankful to the once again the PSCOC and of course our school board for supporting it as well.
Right, and the total amount approximately you were looking at about 40 million. Is
That's
that
right.
the idea? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
a big-
major
It's a big deal.
project.
And it,
I mean, it's not a new high school, but it's still a major project, several
it's-
million dollars.
Yeah, but we could build a new high school 5 years ago for $40 million.
That's true. Yes, sir.
I think
Yeah.
when we started this project, the number was around 25 million.
Right.
So that's how much the costs have increased. It's been significant.
And to be clear, you currently are operating, it's two, right? Like kind of
Two
east and
sites.
west
Yep.
sites for your preschool, and this would consolidate both once it's constructed. Is that the idea? and
That
the
is
plan?
the idea, and it brings all of our resources under one roof, and so that's a benefit to our students. But on our west site, we have our preschool with our CATE Center, our Career and Technical Education Center. So we're mixing 4-year-olds with our high school students that welding shop, automotive, and of course our people do a really good job of keeping them separate and safe, but it's an opportunity for our students to come back under one roof, and then ultimately to expand our Career and Technical Education Center, which we've talked about a little bit in here before, and I welcome Mr. McMinn at some point to join us to talk about all the great things happening with CTE and the pathways and the opportunities for students, very similar to what we talked about, with the internships with Marion Oil or work-based learning.
Sure.
Just to continue to expand that, and then in working with our executive director of curriculum, Ms. Lamson, and Mr. McMinn, pushing that down into our middle schools as well. So looking to expand there.
Gotcha. And this location, is there a location already?
Yeah. So the location is
Planned for this?
Yep. So it's on the same site that the pre-K East is on, right next to Country Club Elementary.
Okay.
So you notice, I think if you're watching,
Foothills
if you-
Drive
yes,
area, right?
yes, right next to Country Club, or right where it is now.
Okay.
So if you are looking at the screen, we have a holding pond in the back behind Country Club, or behind the current pre-K, and that's where you see the dip in the second story. So take a little bit of the Country Club's playground, but it's going to give us an opportunity to expand on another side of their playground. So they're not going to lose any of that
I see.
space, but we're able to keep Country Club Elementary pretty much as it is. But this will allow us to bring the buses in between the campuses and create a much safer drop-off area as well.
Gotcha.
So
Very
it's-
good.
Yeah, it's
Well,
going to be great.
And again, the state is absorbing the majority of these costs for this
99%
new
of
building.
the
Yeah.
I mean, all of those dollars.
Construction costs for sure.
All of the construction costs,
Yeah.
with the exception of what we've contributed to the design phase. They're absorbing all of it. So very excited, and we're looking at probably November of 26. About 2 years from now, completion.
Okay. Yeah, that's about what
but
it says. So.
This Saturday actually is an initial meeting on the site with Jane's Corporation, and inviting some of those adjacent neighbors in to talk about what it's going to look like and how it might impact their neighborhood. So
Gotcha.
stay tuned.
Okay. All right. Very good. Congratulations once again.
And I would be remiss to not thank former operations director Ted Lasowitz for his vision to start this program, but also Isaac Gamboa and that team who have taken on the challenge, and Miss Tanisha Edwards, who Isaac and Tanisha did the last push along with our financial officer Bobby Newland, the last push in Santa Fe to get it over the hump. So thanks to them as well.
Very good. Excellent. Team effort, sounds like
Very
to me,
much
right?
so. Very much so.
Got it. Very good. Other things to mention this morning, Bond 2025?
Yeah, so we are looking to go back and ask the voters for dollars in November of 25, and I think the thing that's most important to announce here, we don't know exactly what the focus is going to be, but we have some HVAC projects at Piedra Vista High School, so some systems projects, so that those air conditioning and heating units are 20 plus years old now and need replaced. Looking at, like I said, mentioned earlier, once the pre-K moves to expand the career and technical education opportunities. So,
Right.
But the goal here is with the bond of 2025 is to not raise taxes. So that's the message. And we, as always, thank our voters in Farmington for supporting our schools, whether it be in our general obligation bond or even our mill levies. So we want to say thank you to the voters of Farmington and for continuing to support us, and stay tuned for what's coming in November.
Okay, and I guess what that means is you are paying off some current bonds to
That's
allow
right.
you to then issue new bonds without that increase in taxes.
Correct.
Later, so stay tuned for more details as they develop here, as we say in the radio business.
Thank you.
So that's coming up. Some of the how you investing funds and return on investment, some of those topics too, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it goes back into, for example, the maintenance of our schools. All of our schools, even being some of them being older, our maintenance department does a really good job. So using these funds to keep our schools safe, keep them ready to learn, new playgrounds for our students,
Right.
the up to date equipment, and so yes.
And there's always seems to be that conversation when you're running a large organization, whether it's a school district or a business or a big building, whatever the case may be. Do we keep kind of nickel and diming this HVAC system and try to
Right.
find these scarce parts to keep it running, or do we rip everything out and put a new system in that's maybe a little more efficient, but certainly a bit more expensive at the start of a project like that? And that's kind of where you are as your facilities get older, I suppose, right? You're always making those decisions.
That's right. And with the increase in cost, the only way for us to replace buildings or new construction or for example, Mesa Verde and Heights Middle School are on that bubble of rebuilds, and in order for us to do that, the match with the state, we'd have to raise taxes. So our goal is to not do that and continue to maintain our schools very well. And then when the opportunity comes, when we have to replace, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. Our guys do such a good job that our rankings stay above that line where
The state says you don't have to replace this
That's right.
building because it's in such good repair.
That's right.
Yeah. So
And there's something to be said about those old brick buildings.
True.
In terms of how they were built, very well.
Yeah.
How safe they are, very safe. New construction looks a little different.
right. Very true. That's very true. But a good point to make, so we'll see what happens. STEM labs coming to your elementary schools, that seems like a pretty big investment too.
So we want to thank the Ripken Foundation for providing STEM labs in a couple of our schools. So they've reached out to us, and I've told them that for every partner that they find in our community, and it's about a $35,000 investment to outfit one of our elementary schools with these STEM labs, with the Ripken STEM labs.
So $35,000 per school.
Per school.
Okay.
And so it's a one-time fee with the exception of replacing some of the items within those labs.
Sure.
So it's a good investment, but they find community partners to invest. And I told them for every community partner they find, I will match it. So I think we have 3 that are fully functioning, 3 coming in later this spring. So we're down to about 4 left of our elementary schools. So hopefully by the end of next school year, all 10 of our elementary schools have these STEM labs.
Nice.
And I'd love to provide the opportunity to come back in when they are really fully up and running to
Yeah, please
provide,
do.
to have somebody come in and talk more about them.
That'd be great. That's very exciting. Attendance, that's an ongoing issue for not only Farmington schools, but I think every school district across the state, across the country.
Across the
How do you
country.
keep kids in class, in school, and getting through graduation, really, right?
Yeah, so Mr. Parentoni, our Executive Director of Support Services, has done a really nice job of working with 3 of our high schools, the 2 big high schools, Farmington High and Piedra Vista, along with Rosinante High School, using a new app, a new EDIA is the company, and it's an attendance app where it's a artificial intelligence communication back and forth between a parent and the school. So it's really what it's done for us is it's improved our communication, one, but two, it's allowed us to dig a little deeper into why students are missing school and how do we support them. You know, whether it be a transportation issue or there's an issue, you know, a mental health issue that we need to support them with. So we're able to find out what the reasons are and do a better job of supporting them and finding out why they're not coming to school. So,
Interesting. So it's not just as simple as saying it's a bad kid who just is skipping school. It's maybe something else.
there's always a reason.
Yeah.
There's always a reason, right? And whether it's a behavior or they don't want to be there, okay, so if that's the case, what are we going to do to improve that? And how do we create that sense of belonging? How do we get them, you know, motivated to come to school? Whether that's pathways that we talked about, putting them in front of subjects in which they're interested in. So it's really given us an opportunity to take a look at why students are being or why they're absent. And the other thing that it's done is it's allowed our attendance folks to well, say along the same lines, really concentrate on red flags or issues, right, that we can help.
But this, I guess, it seems to me, at least from hearing you describe it, is kind of triaging some of the issues regarding your student absences and allowing your human staff to really dig into the individual cases and the families and find out what's the core thing and how can you help.
Yep. And so in the past, our humans were you know, just monitoring who was there and who wasn't, and you know, you as a parent would get an email or a phone call at the end of the day, whereas now it's a text message and there's a two-way communication back and forth. You know, your student is missing today, text message, oh, I'm sorry, we're at the dentist.
Right.
They get a response back, please upload the dentist excuse. So it's good conversation, but then once it's taken care of, we move on. But if there's red flags, that allows our folks in our front offices to support those schools.
Gotcha.
Support those students.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very good. Interesting. And let's see. Next, proficiency for your students. Always something on.
Yeah. So this is a big one, right? And so our goal is to have all of our, or 85% of our students proficient on what we've determined to be critical concepts. So it's a continued push. I've talked about it before. I think, as a matter of fact, I think we talked about it before Christmas in regards to we are in charge of that learning, right? And if students aren't proficient, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
And so how are we going to intervene when students are proficient? How do we enrich? So yeah, it's a big push of ours across all of our schools. And I want to thank our principals and instructional coaches and most importantly our teachers for taking on this challenge and creating systems in which I can walk in and say, tell me how your students are doing. And it's very simple, and it's spread across, you know, well, they pull it up and they say, well, here's how many students I have that are proficient, and then what are we going to do about it if they're not? But the great thing about it is that we're creating some consistency across all of our schools. So I've said this before as well, that we want our students to have an equitable education all the way across our district, regardless of where you go to school. So these systems that we're putting in place are allowing us to, one, monitor it better, but most importantly, ensure that students are getting an opportunity, if they're not proficient, to know why and what are we going to do about it.
Right. And I guess
I'm excited.
And help them to reach those expectations.
And I think and I think I brought it up last time I was in here in regards to, you know, we're nowhere close to where we want to be in terms of proficiency. But I think I shared that, you know, for example, in language arts, that we had 32% of our kids were within 2 or 3 points of being proficient. So I believe we are right on the cusp of turning that page, and so stay tuned in the spring.
It's not a black or white result.
Right.
It's kind of there's some gray areas there where you're very close, it sounds like to me. So that's exciting.
We
Legislation
are excited.
impacting education. Of course, the 60-day session in Santa Fe has started, and I imagine you're watching some bills as they make their way through the committee system and the roundhouse and things like that.
Yeah, so we get an update. So obviously we're now in full go, right?
Right,
And I think I don't know. I think the last day to introduce a bill is in mid-February, February 10th, something
Sounds
like
about
that.
right. Yes, sir.
But a couple that I'm watching early, number of instructional days. There's a bill out there to clarifying that local schools, school boards, governing bodies can determine the number of school days based on the hours. I know that was a big issue last year with the 4-day week,
Right.
and for some of our districts, it really doesn't have a great impact on us, but because we are a 180-day district. But
Sure.
what it will allow us to do is it will give us some flexibility on our planning time for our teachers. So. One thing that I've heard from our teachers is that we don't have enough planning time. You know, we did away with our early outs on Mondays, and they do have that same amount of time, but it's extended across 5 days. And but we do only have 2 full professional days in the school year beyond what they received the 2 days at the start. So this would give us some opportunities to do something to provide more time for teachers.
Okay.
Maximum class load is another bill that is out there that's going to be interesting. A state board of education is
Right.
I think has been proposed through the House and the Senate, and I think what they're trying to do is that revolving door of the Secretary of Education. I think we've had 5 or 6 in the last 10 years.
Right.
And I think the idea here is if there is a state board of education, that it creates more consistency.
Right.
And that's obviously we know in education change is difficult, change is slow, and with the inconsistency, it's I don't know that anything ever gets changed, right? So that's a good one. And then I think probably the last one that I think so far that's important to me is the public school funding formula and increasing program units for older students. So what we talked about earlier in terms of CTE programs and pathways,
Right.
it costs more to educate students in those areas than it would for example, in an English classroom.
Sure.
Whether it be lab fees, tools, equipment that is needed. So be interested to see how that one shakes out.
Okay, interesting. And there's also some legislation about our final point here on the list, which is personal electronic devices, right, with cell phones and things like that.
There is.
In schools. And so what's your thoughts on that? What's the policy right now at Farmington schools about kids and cell phones?
So we don't have a school board policy in place, but we do have guidance in our student and parent handbook, especially at the middle school and elementary schools. But our schools have individual protocols in regards to when they should see it, when they shouldn't.
Okay.
We know that it's a device that is impossible to live without, right? And it can be used for good things and it can be used for bad things. And I think what a policy does is it gives the teachers a consistent policy, gives the teachers in schools some guidelines to go by that will help in terms of that distraction. So I will thank our school board for starting an initial conversation, even pre-legislation, about putting more of a policy in place, right?
A district-wide
A
policy, I
district-wide
guess?
policy,
Gotcha.
yes. So
Okay.
we started the reading discussion step at our January board meeting, and we'll continue it on throughout and watch this legislative session pan out and see what's going to come of it. But we're looking forward to ensuring that our students are fully focused and engaged on and why they're there.
Right.
And sometimes, the phone is a tool to use, whether
Sure.
it be research or so just having those guardrails and those expectations I think will be I was ironically walking through the halls of Farmington High on Monday, and a teacher posted at their door some of their rules, individual rules. And I asked him if he would welcome it, and he would, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of just having that consistency. So I'm not battling my students when the teacher next to me is not.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it does a lot of things. So we'll definitely be listening and watching.
Well.
And I know that our school board is very interested in ensuring that we're giving all of our students the guidance that they need and giving all of our teachers the resources and tools that they need to ensure that students are learning to meet that
Sure.
proficiency.
Right. Well, and I think it's kind of it's a difficult balancing act with cell phones and things like
Right.
that, because they can certainly be a tool, as you mentioned, but then they can also be distractions if they're used incorrectly or at the wrong time. And certainly for parents who want to be able to reach their students in the case of an emergency, there's that whole part as well. And so there's a lot of things to keep in mind, I think, when you talk about this topic.
Yeah, and I think if you go on our website and look at the first reading step of our policy, that it does allow for students to use their phone during emergencies.
Sure.
And obviously we want to ensure, and in some cases, it's the only communication a student has with their families. So we certainly don't want to limit that.
Right.
We just want to make sure we want to find a balance.
Got it. Very good. Well, Mr. Diehl, we think come to the end of our talking points this morning and the things that we wanted to visit about at the beginning of the calendar year, at least.
I feel winded.
Do you? Well, I don't blame you. We covered a lot. We covered a lot of ground this morning, but I certainly appreciate you coming in, as you always do, and sharing what's going on with the district and some exciting projects to be watching here as the school year moves forward.
Yeah, and I'll end it with the way I always do. I want to thank our school board, our administrators, most importantly our teachers who sit in front of our students on a daily basis, and then of course our families and our community for the support that they give our schools. We couldn't do it without all of that, and of course our first responders and Office of Emergency Management keeping our students safe. So thank you to all for making Farmington Schools a great place.
There you go. Very good. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next month.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You paused for a minute there. Were you thinking?
Nope.
Okay.
I'll be here.
All right. Fair enough. Appreciate it very much.
All right.
Superintendent Cody Diehl from Farmington Schools, my guest this morning here on KSJE. KSJE and the San Juan College Native American Center present the Student Study Tip of the Week.
My name is Emin Chi, Achievement Coach with the Native American Center, and we're bringing you coaching tips of the week. Plan ahead. Create a study plan at the beginning of the semester based on your course syllabus. Ideally, you should study a little bit every day throughout the week. Even just 20 minutes can make a huge difference, so you don't wind up cramming and stressing right before the big exam.
The Student Study Tip of the Week is presented by the San Juan College Native American Center and KSJE. Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did, and if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.